Alright, so this is not the video I thought I would be making here today. I was actually pre-recording something about Thatcher Demko. I guess we'll move that over to tomorrow's time slot because this takes precedent. The Vancouver Canucks have indeed signed themselves a prospect. It is Filip Johansson, former first-round pick in the 2018 NHL Entry Draft. And if you're taking a look at this signing and saying that, hey, this is a pretty interesting move, I would go out there and agree with you. This is something that I honestly like a lot, mostly from the perspective of the fact that this is the Canucks actually taking advantage of who happens to be available. Filip Johansson is a guy that, as we noted, is a former first-round talent. He was a 24th overall pick by the Minnesota Wild back in the 2018 NHL Entry Draft. Now, to be fair, he probably should not have been drafted that high. Back then, he was seen as somewhat of a reach, and now you could say that he is still somewhat of a reach, especially at that 24th overall spot. But Filip Johansson is a right-handed defenseman. He's 6'1", 176 as a 22-year-old who is recently playing for Frölunda in the SHL. Take a look at his entire body of work back in the 2017-18 season. He was mostly just a two-way kind of guy. He didn't really produce the best numbers. As his career went on in the SHL, he didn't really produce the best numbers. He had two straight 11-point seasons in 46 games played and in 47 games played, although this previous season he did have 7 points in the 9 games he had in the playoffs. Let's go over to the Canucks website and take a look at what they have to say about the contract signing over here. Vancouver Canucks GM Patrick Allvin announced today that the club has agreed to terms on a 2-year entry-level contract with defenseman Filip Johansson. Filip plays a solid defensive game and has shown consistent improvement over the past 3 seasons. He will continue to develop his game in Sweden with Frölunda next year, but we look forward to welcoming to Vancouver for development camp at UBC next month. Johansson, 22 years old, is coming off his second season with Frölunda in the SHL, where he recorded 11 points in 8 penalty minutes with a +5 rating. He also collected 7 points in 9 postseason games, ranking tied for first on the team in goals with 5 and co-leading Frölunda defenseman in points to help the team reach the playoff semifinals. In 132 SHL career games split between Frölunda and Leksands, Johansson has registered 26 points and 34 penalty minutes. The Västerås, Sweden native has also represented his country multiple times during his career, highlighted by podium finishes at the 2016 U17 Hockey Challenge, where his team finished gold, the 2017 Hlinka Gretzky Cup, where he finished bronze, and the 2018 IIHF World U18 Championship, where he also had a bronze medal. The 6'1", 176-pound defenseman was originally selected by the Wild in the first round, 24th overall in the 2018 draft. Now, you might be taking a look at this and saying, okay, what the heck? The guy was drafted in 2018. How was he a free agent? How did the Wild not retain his rights or whatever? And that actually is a very interesting part, because when he was drafted 24th overall, we did say that it was seen as somewhat of a reach. Go back over to the 2018 draft rankings, and you can see that he was ranked 39th by ISS, 68th by Futures Iterations. Bob McKenzie had him at number 54, so this was a guy that went a lot higher than he was projected to go. And as a result, he didn't really progress as a quote-unquote first-round pick. Probably should have progressed. And now, for the Minnesota Wild, they ended up not re-signing Filip Johansson because they ended up getting themselves a compensatory draft pick in this year's NHL Draft because of it. It's actually a rule that the NHL has in place for teams that end up not signing their first-round picks. Now, the Minnesota Wild will be getting that 56th overall pick because they did not sign Johansson. And according to NHL insiders, it's apparent that this was actually the more desirable move. Part of the reason why the Wild chose not to sign Johansson was because they are awarded that compensatory pick, which they actually wanted more than this player. Here's Chris Peters, certainly not stunned to see Johansson sign an NHL deal so soon after his draft rights were allowed to expire by Minnesota. Compensatory pick was more valuable to the Wild than the contract, and I agree with that decision. Now Johansson gets a clean slate, lots of time on ice with Frölunda this year. So, all in all, this is a player that the Canucks are getting pretty much for free, and I mean, he has the label of a first-round talent attached to him, which I don't really think you should attach too much importance on, but at the end of the day, this is a smart and reliable two-way defenseman with solid defensive game and some puck-moving abilities, better for real life than fantasy hockey. So don't go out there and expect this guy to put up the biggest amount of numbers. Here is the June 22 report from Dave Hall. The Minnesota Wild elected to leave their 2018 first-rounder unsigned, allowing others to pursue his rights. The Canucks, who find themselves in an obvious need of restocking the shelves, took a no-risk flyer on a two-way rearguard, signing him to a 2-year entry-level deal. While the offensive numbers have never really fully come together for Johansson, tallying just 26 points over his 132-game sample, there still is some intrigue to be had. Now 22, his game has taken more of a defensive approach and can play minutes in a variety of fashions, offering potential peripheral upside. He is expected to remain in for London for one more season, after which expect a good stint in Abbotsford. Overall, he remains a long-term project, but he does offer decent value as a right-handed third-pairing asset. So there definitely is value here, it's just not a lot, and the Vancouver Canucks getting this guy for free certainly makes things a lot more intriguing when you consider that the Minnesota Wild just did not value this guy enough to sign him to a contract in the first place. But at the end of the day, this is a free prospect, and a guy that does have that first-round pick label. Should he not have been a first-round pick? Probably. Should he probably have been, let's say, a mid-second, late-second, early third? I'd say that's more in the territory that he probably should have gone in, but at the end of the day, he's a Vancouver Canuck now, he's a free prospect, nothing really bad to say about that in the slightest, but it gives the player a clean slate, it gives the Canucks a free prospect, and now all we gotta do is wait and see where Filip Johansson's career takes him within Abbotsford and Frölunda. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire signing here. Filip Johansson is a Vancouver Canuck. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.